Okay, I think everyone is here. Good morning, guys. We'll get
Good
started.
morning, sir.
Very good morning.
Good morning.
Very good morning.
Hey, good morning, sir.
Very good
Very
morning.
good morning, sir.
Good morning. Very good morning, guys. We'll get started. So, yesterday, we looked at those tables, right? We discussed about the tables. Now, it's time to implement everything in MySQL. Okay. So today I just removed and installed it again yesterday, and today I opened it before this session so that we don't face any problem. Let me share my screen. So first I'm going to share MySQL itself, Workbench, right? We discussed about different components. Okay, so when you launch Workbench from your program, you will get this screen. Okay, and this is where you need to connect. Okay, so I'm going to connect using root. Okay, so root is like your system admin password. Okay, click on it and give the same password which you had given at the time of installation. Okay, time of installation, you give it, and then you will be able to log into something like this. Okay. So there are three important parts to this. One is left side part here. Here you'll see two tabs, administration tabs, schema tabs. So DBAs would use administration tabs. All these are the tasks of DBAs, database administrator. Okay, server status, client connection, users and privileges, creating new users, the password and all those management. Okay, data export, restore, startup, shutdown, all these are administration tasks. We will not do this. We are not going to get into this. Schema, this is a database view. And from programmer's point of view, this is important for us. Okay. And each of these you see, so this is the database server. What we installed is database server. And on database server, we install Workbench. So Workbench is connecting to the server. You can reconfigure your Workbench to connect to different servers. Let's say if you have access to 5 different servers, you can reconfigure Workbench, okay, to one particular server at a time. And then in that server, once you have the access, okay, user and password, you'll be able to see all the databases that are there in that server. So in my server, these are the databases. Okay, so World, Sys, and Sakila, these are default databases. If you install, okay, Sakila and Sys are default, okay, and World is a sample database which MySQL gives. So you have a choice. If you want, you can install it. If you don't want, you don't install it, World. But Sys and Sakila will be installed, okay? So they are for managing MySQL stuff. So, okay, and rest of the databases, you will be creating the database. So let's say you want to create a new database, right? Okay. Or let's say first, let's drop one database. Let's say we drop library DB. So to drop library DB, we have to write some command, okay, like drop database and database name, or Workbench gives you capability to use UI. So once you right click on this database, these are different options that you can perform on the database. Now database is called schema. Okay. So database in MySQL is called as schema. You can call it as schema as well. Okay. So these are all schema. Okay. So if you want to drop a schema, will have again database, right? It will have tables and all those things that we discussed as triggers, views, okay, procedures and functions and things like that. Now, these are the options that we can perform. This is called drop. Okay. Now deleting a database is called drop. Okay. Deleting, and there's a difference between, technically there's a difference between drop and delete. Okay, the drop is when you are completely removing it. Okay, and delete is when you are deleting a part of it. Let's say if you have a table, okay, and you want to delete a row from the table. If you want to delete a row from a table, we use command delete. That's delete. Okay. But if you want to remove the entire table, so that the table, even the name will not be there. Okay. So if you are removing data from the table, it's called delete. And if you are removing table itself, we call it as drop. So here we're removing database itself. So we say drop. So you have create schema, alter schema, drop schema. Create schema is when you want to create a new schema. You can create a new database, and we will do that. Okay. Alter schema is when you want to make some changes to the schema. You want to increase the size. Okay. Then you can use alter schema. So database is already there. You want to make some changes to the settings, to the properties. Then you use alter schema. Drop schema is you are removing. Okay. So here library underscore DB, right? Now when I go and I say drop schema, okay, because we are dropping, it gives you a warning. Please confirm permanent deletion of schema and all its data. All the data that we have in the table everything will be removed. I say drop now. Okay. Now when I say drop now, okay, it got dropped. Okay. So this is one way that it dropped. Okay. Or what you could do is, let's say I have my employees. Okay. So I'll say drop schema and my employees. Okay. Now this is your command. So what you see here right side, this is called editor, SQL editor. This is where we write our SQL commands. So by default, when you launch it, this may not be there. If it is not there, you can click on this plus sign here, you see. Or you can click on the database and say no. Okay, no, I mean, it's not there here. So you have to create here plus sign, okay, plus SQL. So a editor will open, okay, and this is where we have to write our commands, okay. SQL has, you have to give semicolon at the end of the line, okay. That's how SQL commands are. So you give the command and you give semicolon to indicate that's end of the line. SQL commands are case insensitive. Okay. SQL commands are insensitive. Insensitive means, okay, so drop schema is a command. Now it doesn't matter, okay, in what case you write. I can write drop, I can write schema, it doesn't matter. Unlike most of the programming languages are sensitive. Python is case sensitive. If you're writing print, you have to write all small only. But okay, SQL commands are insensitive. It doesn't matter what case you write. Okay, it ignores your case. But when you talk about name, when you talk about the string text data, there, anything in quotation, it becomes case sensitive. Okay, now I'll go ahead, select this, and you don't have to select it. Okay, you can directly click on this power sign. You see the yellow power sign. If you click on it, entire code, let's say if I have 10 lines of code, all the 10 lines of code will execute. Okay, so anyway, I have only one. So this one line will be execute. And when you do it, you see here, the output is given at the bottom here. Green tick, okay, this is the green tick, means your command has run successfully without any problem. Okay, but if you see a cross here, let's say, same thing, I try to do it again. So you get red cross, means your program has not run successfully. Because we have already dropped, again, we are trying to drop same schema, which is not there. You're trying to drop a schema which does not exist. So you get error saying that red cross. Okay, and this is the message. Okay, so this is the action. This is the time at which you run the query. Okay, it will take the time from your system. Then action, what action you perform, generally your query. So I'm saying drop schema employee. See, even if you're doing using UI screen, still the database will execute using command only. So when we said write, what was the library underscore DB, it actually, our action was converted into command and executed as a command. Just that you don't have to remember the command in that case. So it says drop schema, library DB, 2 rows affected, and it took, this is the time to execute that command. Here, drop schema, okay, my employees, green tick. Second, drop schema, my employees, red cross. Okay, error code 1008. Okay, now whenever you get stuck, let's say, you are doing something and you got some error and you don't know what does error mean, right? You can copy this error in Google and search. You can say, okay, MySQL error code 1008. Okay, some blog somewhere, okay, they will write about that error. So, so this is unique error for this is unique error code for this error. And here it's clearly, it says, right? It says, to move this up. It says cannot drop database. My employees database doesn't exist. So, oh, database doesn't exist. That's why it's saying cannot drop, right? So we know that. Sometimes you may not know, right? Some error will be confusing. So you can easily go and search with that error. Okay. And you will get the meaning of that error and you can even fix it. All right. Okay. So now let's see this. Okay. So this is command, right? Now we have to create our database. And the name that we gave some name, if I remember correctly. We called it as Apna Mart, right? And that was the name we created. So Apna Mart. So I come here to SQL again, and you can do right click and say create schema. Okay. And it will ask you the schema name. Now, schema name has to be small case, lowercase only. Okay. Schema commands, I told you, case sensitive. But schema name, okay, schema name has to be all lowercase only. Okay, it will not accept capital letter. If you give, it will convert into lowercase. So I call it as Apna Mart. Space are not allowed, but underscore you can use it. No space, no dot, but underscore you can use it. Okay, so I say Apna Mart. Okay, and now I will say apply. Okay, see, so this is the, okay, sorry, you can even give space. I'll tell you why. This is your command. Okay, this is your create schema command. Okay, this is the command. When I click on apply, this command will run. Okay, so I'm going to copy this and say apply. So see here on the left side, it says execute SQL. I say finish. Okay, now you see here, Apna Mart has been created here. I can close it now. Oops, okay. I'll apply. I think I don't know why. Okay, so I wanted to save these. Okay, so that I'll be sharing this file later. Okay, drop schema. Okay, now what happened? Okay, so I told you, right? Spaces you can give. Okay, my mistake. Spaces you can give, but generally recommended that you don't give space. Okay, sometimes spaces can create problem. Because you don't know whether this is the name or next command, right? So what Python does is, let's say here you see, I have single word, right? If you have single word, then you don't have to give quotation. But if you are giving Apna Mart as 2 word like this, then you have to give quotation. Okay. If I don't give quotation, then it will treat this as command and this is error. Okay. So yes, quotation, you can have a space also. For example, I'll try to do this. When I try to run it, okay, it says error. You have an error in SQL syntax. Okay, that means we did not give proper syntax. But if you want to have space, you can give quotation here, single quotation here. And now when you run it, okay, why there is,
Sir, can you put like double quotation there, like apna mat dono?
okay, but I was showing that, okay, here it added single quotation here, right? Not here. When
Okay.
okay, no, so I think this is problem with the space only, okay?
Okay.
Uh,
So like instead of saying there create a schema, can we write like create database as well?
No,
Both
no.
are same. Okay.
This is the language, okay, which my SQL understands. Okay.
Okay.
So if I say database, okay, and if I say Apna Mart 1, okay, that's it. Okay, yeah. One row affected, Apna Mart. Okay, not, let's do, sometimes it may not come here. So you refresh it. Okay, refresh all. So you got Apna Mart, yes. Okay. So database also worked. Okay, no, sorry, that's again. Because I use only schema. Okay, so the database also worked, yeah. Apna Mart 1 has been created. So try not to give space, okay? Space it doesn't accept, okay? It has to be lowercase and it has to be single word. You can give underscore. Underscore is allowed.
Okay.
So yeah. So this is how you create a database. Okay. Now let's drop Apna Mart 1. We don't need it. So I will select and run the query. Apna Mart is gone. Okay. Next. So table database is created. When you expand this, okay, it will show you, okay, different components of database, tables, views, stored procedures, and functions. Okay, we'll talk about other three. First, let's talk about table. So we know what table is, right? Right now, if you expand table, there's no way to expand table because there is no table at all. Okay, there is no table, so that's why you cannot see any table. Now, we need to create our table, right? Now, let's go back to the ER diagram and you tell me which table should be created first. One that has six, ER diagram that has 6 tables, right? So I'm changing my screen share. So yes, so these are the 6 tables, right? Employees, locations, bills, transaction, inventories, and inventory location. Tell me, among these 6 tables, which one should you create first? Think and tell me.
Employees.
Employees table first. Yes.
Employee ID.
Employees?
Employee ID.
No, employee ID is not a table. Employees is a table. So you're saying
Employees view.
why not, let's say, why not create bills? Why not create locations? What happens if I create bills first?
The table is related to employees.
Okay. So, and why not locations? Okay. So the first table that you have to create is locations only, not employees. Because employees is related to location, right? When you add employees, you have to mention the location to which the employee belongs, correct? Okay, so if you see here, one to many, right? So many you can create first, but not one. Okay, so location is the first table that you have to create, not employees. Because if you try to create employees, you can't have an employee without setting the location, correct? So you have to have location first. Okay, So in this case, this would be our first table. Okay. Can I change the shed to something else? Okay. So location is first. Then you can create employees or inventory. Second table, you can create employees or inventory. Inventory also is independent. In fact, inventory can be first also, because inventory is not linked to locations, right? No, it is linked to locations. Correct. But it is linked to locations, but it is linked to locations through third table. Directly, inventory is not linked to location. So inventory can be your first table also. Right? I'll put one here as well. So indicate that you can choose either location or inventory as table 1. Then table 2, okay, it has to be employees only. Okay. Then 3, it has to be bills only. Bills will come after employees. Right? Now you can have inventory locations or transactions as 4. So both of them can be 4. So this can also be 4, and this will also be. Okay. So you can create either inventory first or location first, but not employees. Okay. Employee will come only after location. Right? Okay. So let's go back to our.
Sir, if we create inventory table first, how can we define the locations?
Inventory table will not need location, right? In inventory table, we don't have to put location. When you create inventory locations, here, this table need to have location and this table needs to have inventory.
Okay.
Directly in inventory table, we are not putting location.
Okay.
Okay, because it is many-to-many relationship. So one inventory could be at 10 different locations.
Okay.
Right? Same inventory could be at your 5 different locations, 10 different locations, 3 different locations. So in inventory table, we do not have. Now, if you go back, so these are the columns that we have identified.
Yes.
There is no location ID here. Okay, this is inventories, right? Now, when you create inventory location, this is where it needs inventory ID and it needs location ID. So for inventory, look, inventory location. Okay, so inventory you don't need, but for inventory location, you need to have both inventory table pre-created and location table pre-created. So if you go to employees, okay, location, right? Okay, so I think this is the one that we are creating, employees. So this is the location manager, right? So this table has to be created first.
Yes.
Before you're talking about location, employees. Similarly, here, okay, inventory location you need to have. This is a foreign key relation, but inventory does not have. This is a location. Location also does not have any foreign key. Okay, so we will first create location. So we'll move to. I'll show you one using direct command, and then I'll show you one using UI. And then I would want you to create other 2 tables, other 2-3 tables. Okay, try to do that by yourself. If not, we'll do it tomorrow. Okay, so I'll create 2 tables and I'll show you how to fill in some dummy data. Okay. So coming back to our SQL, okay. Now our command is we want to create a table, right? So to create a table, we have a command called create what table? Create table, table name. Now table name, you can give lowercase, uppercase, okay. So let's say table locations, right? Okay. So create table locations. Okay, so create table locations. But when you're creating a table, we have to give some properties. Properties like columns. Okay. Okay. And within the bracket, we have to mention each column. So first column is location ID, correct? Second column is, let me go and see here. In fact, okay. The way we have designed, no. Right. Okay. Location, right? So location name, address, city. So location ID, location name, address, city. Address, city. Pin code. Now, see, you have to make sure that when you're using names, when you're using some names like table name or column name, don't use keywords. Keywords are reserved for some action. So how do you know it's a keyword? Okay, one thing is you have to remember, okay, the list of keywords. Or when you're using my workbench, all the reserved words will be marked in blue. So don't use these blue words for your names. Okay, I can't have a table name called create. You don't have a table name. You can't create a table name with create. Okay, just keep that thing in mind. Okay, so these are your okay 5 columns that we want to add. Great. Now, second thing that you have to talk about, okay, first thing is column name, right? Second thing is, okay, the data type. What kind of data you can store in this, in this column? Okay, what kind of data can you store in this column? So for that purpose, we have to give the data type. Now, data type, okay, in MySQL is a lengthy list. Okay, if you're coming from Python, in Python we're very simple, but here, okay, so I'll say MySQL data types. Okay. So see here. Okay. So if you talk about string data types, can you see my screen, right? I'll add this link. Okay. I think I've already added. No. I think I just put the headers, but I did not. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So you see this. Okay. If you want to store text data, string data, then these are different data types that are available. Char, varchar, binary. Okay. Char stands for if you want to have a fixed number of characters. For example, your phone number. Your mobile numbers will be 10 digit, fixed 10 digit, right? So if you are saving mobile number, okay, the best possible option is to use that as a char, and then bracket open and you put the number of characters. So I'll say 10. Now, when I say 10, if you try to add a value more than 10, it will give you error. But if you try to add a value less than 10, it will accept. Okay, so if you give 9, it will add a blank space in front of it. If you're using char will always have a fixed character. Okay. Varchar, V stands for variable. So variable characters. So if I say 20, okay, so it can maximum it can be 20, but you can give any number of characters. If you give 5, it will accept 5. 10, it will accept 10. Character, if you give size as 10 and give only 5, it will put space. So that total space becomes 10. It will not give you error, automatically it will put space so that total size will remain 10, but variable character will not use. So if you are saving somebody's name, okay, any other text, okay, which could be anything, right? Some names could be 5 characters, some could be 20 characters. So in that case, okay, it's better to use varchar. Okay, it's not going to waste space. Though you're saying 25 and you give only 5 characters, it will only take 5 characters, 15 characters space you have saved. But in char, okay, it will consume all 25. So phone numbers is a great, example for using char. Varchar, any other name, designation, things like that, you can use varchar. Binary is for 1. Okay. Binary will store only 1 character. Like for gender. Gender, you can have male, female, others, let's say. So M, F, O. Okay. So binary is always 1. Okay. You can have multiple values. Okay. It's not that it's you can have only 0 or 1, but you can say MF. Male, female, and others. We'll accept only 1 character. Variable, okay, will again have variable binary size. Then you have tiny blob. These are used for very heavy files. Okay, so see here. Tiny blob will have maximum 255 bytes. 1 byte is equal to 1 character. 1 character takes 1 byte. Okay, 8-bit makes 1 byte. Okay. So when you say 25 bytes, that means it can only take 25 characters. Then you have again tiny text. So tiny blob can even have a binary object, binary data. Binary data are non-text data. Okay. So sometimes, okay, you when you look at the content that you have in computer, or when you save some content, okay, some data will be in text format, some data will be in binary format. For example, if you add something to a Word document, the data is stored in the binary format, binary format. Okay, that means if you try to right click and say open in Notepad, okay, you can't open. If you open it, you get some junk character. The simple way is whatever you can open in Notepad, okay, are your text data. What you can't open in Notepad are binary data. For example, Word, Excel, any of these things you try to open in Notepad, you can't. Okay, you'll get some junk characters. Zip file, they're all junk characters. But your obvious text file, .txt, your CSV files also you can open in Notepad. These are called text files. So in text files, we talk in terms of characters. In binary format, we talk in terms of bytes. Okay. So yeah. So if you have a text data, you will use tiny text. If you have some binary data, you will use tiny blob. Okay. Similarly, text data, you will use 65,000 characters. You will use text. Okay. Then you have medium text, long text. Okay. So these are different sizes. So if you have to store some essay, okay, big essay, probably you will be using medium text or long text. Okay. So these are the number of characters that it can store. Varchar will not be able to store so many. Varchar has a limit. Okay. Varchar has a limit up to 65,000. Okay. So 65, it can't store more than 65,000. So you can use Varchar for name, address, but not for, let's say, profile, biodata, right? That kind of thing. You have to use medium text or long text. So these are different types of data types for storing text data. Then coming to numerical, you have bit. Again, size is 1. Tiny int. Bool is for Boolean value, 0 or 1, true, false. Okay, it will have either 0 or 1. So this is like binary of text, but it will have only numbers. Okay, numeric, right? It will have only numbers. Small int, medium int, int. These are different types of integer, and depending upon the size, okay, you can choose. So if you have to store a very large number, scientific calculation, probably you will use int. Okay. What we do is, right, we generally use int, but that's not a good practice. Okay. You have to remember this. Okay. Remember the size reference. And now you see one more thing. Medium int, okay, has again 2 parts to it. Signed and unsigned. Signed, that means where you will have sign negative or positive. Okay, so the size becomes half actually. So because unsigned is 0 to 65,000. 0 to 65,000, let's say you have 65,000 characters. But if you put sign, it can be either plus or minus. So it becomes half. So 62,500 to 62,500 plus and minus, right? I mean, if you take 6,500, 35,000. So these are the size for different types of numeric data type. So yes, before you do that, you need to go through this list to understand different data types. Then you have date time. Okay. If you want to store only date, you will only put date. Okay. Time is not important. If time is important, or only time is important, you will put only time. If only year is important, you can use only year. If you need both date and time, then you use date time. Then you have timestamp. Timestamp is number, numeric. Okay, it's an integer value. This shows you number of seconds elapsed. So you can convert all the date time into integer value. Integer value is called timestamp. Timestamp is number of seconds that has been elapsed since Jan 1st, 1970. I think 1970 is when computers started coming in use. So we take Jan 1st, 1970 as a reference. Midnight of Jan 1st, 1970. So if timestamp is showing as, let's say, 1,700,000 something, that means that many seconds it has elapsed from Jan 1st, 1970. Okay. And these things we have in Excel also. Same thing you have in Excel also. So we also have to cover Excel. So hopefully if we finish everything by this week, next week we'll talk about Excel. So again, we'll see how to convert date time into timestamp. So timestamp is a number, it's an integer number which counts the number of seconds. It does not have, like 3-4 parameters, just one. Like date, if you take date will have 3 parameters, right? Date, month, and year. If you take time, it will have again 3 parameters, right? Hours, minutes, and seconds. But timestamp will have only 1 parameter, just one numeric value. Okay, yeah, this is the format. Okay, so these are different ones, okay, text, numeric, and date time. So let's go back. Okay, we'll do one. Pritham, just give me 2 minutes. We'll finish off at least once. Location ID, we'll put as number, right? Location ID at max, you can have 100, 500, 1,000 store, right? So it doesn't make sense to create int. Instead, we can use small int. Small int ranges up to 65,000, right? So I will say here, location ID small int. Location name, varchar. Okay. And varchar, we have to give size. Let's say maximum size is 30. Address, again, we can give varchar. Okay. City, again, we can give varchar. Here, we probably will give 20. Address will make it 40, let's say. Maximum, we can give 40 characters. Pin code. Okay. Now, pin code is 6 characters, right? It's always fixed as 6 characters. So better we give char here. Okay. So these are your data types. Now, here you have to give comma, 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 comma. Indicate this is one part, second, third, fourth. There's one more thing you have to understand, right? We discussed about constraints, right? So location ID is your primary key. Now, primary key can only become a foreign key in different tables. So if I don't define here primary key, I can't use this as a foreign key. Okay. So there are 2 ways to declare its primary key. One, you write here itself. Primary key. So first, the column ID, column name, sorry, column name. Then second, data type. And then third, if there are any constraint. So in this case, yes, it's a primary key constraint. So I have written primary key here. Okay, other 2 tables, there are no other constraint. So I have not put anything here. Okay, this is done. Now I'll select the entire table and I will click on run. Green tick, that means you should be happy that your command has run successful. So, okay, now here again, okay, since it's not reflecting because sometimes it may not reflect. So you have to say refresh all. Oh, okay. No, yeah. See, we made a mistake here. What mistake we made? By default, you see employees is bold. Now it has so many databases, right? Now, how will MySQL know which database are we are using? So, by default, employees is there. So what happened? Our table actually got created in, in employees. So you need to give the schema name or database name. Here I'll say Apna Mart dot. So either you give Apna Mart dot location, okay, then table will be created here. Now, if I refresh this, you should be able to see the location in the table. Or you say use Apna Mart. Apna Mart. So you're telling that you're going to use Apna Mart. Now, if I run this, so see Apna Mart became bold. So before you perform anything, just make sure that that schema is bold, or you use schema name. This is safe way. Okay, schema name dot table name. Safe. Okay, even if that schema is not selected, still the command will go into that database. Okay, so this is how you can add a table. So create table name. Let's say I want to drop it. I don't want it. Okay, so to drop it, you will say here drop table name. When I say drop table name, and when I run it, gone. Table is gone. Deleted. Entire data will be deleted. Okay. Good that we have command and we didn't any data. We can recreate it again. So now, again, this location is created here. And if you expand location, so these are columns, indexes, foreign key, triggers. So if you click on this, you'll see all the columns that we added. Okay. So we added 5 columns. Indexes. Okay. So index, we'll discuss again what index mean. Okay, later. Now, generally, you can create index and default primary keys index are created. We'll talk about index. Okay. So yeah, once we're done with tables, we'll talk about index views and things like that. So by default primary key, we'll have an index. You can also create your own index. We have not created any foreign key here. So this is blank. No triggers. So this is also blank. Okay, so index we have created and columns we have created. If you double click on it, it will show you it's printed, right? So you put your cursor somewhere here and you double click on it, the column name will be printed here. Okay, so if I have to select the column, let's say I want to select all the data from the table. Okay, so instead of saying selected and then typing this, you can just simply say location ID, comma, city, okay, from, and then table name. Table name is locations. Okay, so that's the use of doing that. If you would do the right click, okay, you can also say refresh all, or you can create a index on it. Okay, so yeah, we haven't created index. We have not discussed index. We'll talk about it. And when you click on it, at here you will see the properties of the column. So column is location ID, definition is location ID, and the type is small int, okay, and PK stands for primary key. So you see location ID, the data type is small int, and there is a primary key. If I click on location ID here, you see location ID, location name varchar 30. Okay, no constraint here. Okay, I think you would have typed location name here. Yeah. Okay. So this is how you can create a table. Try to create other tables also using same command. Okay. And tomorrow we'll connect. We will create table using UI, and also we'll try to add some values to the location table. Okay. Foreign keys pending. We'll talk about foreign keys tomorrow. All right. Shall we end it here for today?
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And we'll
Thank
see
you.
you tomorrow. Take care.